Good morning. My name is Jamie Ashcraft. I run a business called Food Dudes, and we grow ancient grains. So let me tell you 3 things about myself, just because it's more fun that way, right? So I married a farmer, and we grow ancient grains and potatoes and hay. The ancient grains that we grow are spelt and Khorasan. And I have 4 boys. I have a fruit stand up in Sugar City, and I sell a ton of fruit. So during the summer, we're open, and it's fun. We love to eat healthy things. Okay, so today we're here to talk about ancient grains and sourdough. So first of all, I need to know, how many people do sourdough right now as is? Like, do you already do it? There's like one half hand. Half raised. Oh, there we go. Okay, and anybody else? Okay, awesome. So we have lots to talk about today. And you guys, we could have a 3-day class on sourdough there's so much to know about sourdough. Yes, you're so excited. Awesome. We are going to talk about sourdough. I have to tell you, I just started learning about sourdough, but I have made a lot of sourdough just for you guys so I could teach you this class. So, are you ready for this? Okay. Who has ever heard of Khorasan, or some people know it better as Kamut? Kamut is a brand name. Yeah? Okay, so we grow Khorasan on our farm. We also grow spelt on our farm. And so Khorasan and spelt are cousins. They have very similar properties. They're easier to digest. They're easier on your body. People with gluten sensitivities can eat them a lot of times. So if they're full on celiac, that's a whole nother story. But a lot of times if you have just a gluten intolerance or gluten insensitivity, people have had a lot of success and they can eat this and they don't have to eliminate all gluten from their lives. So spelt tends to be a little bit nutty, tends to be a little bit harder to work with sometimes in the kitchen. It tends to make a brick of a loaf of bread if you don't know what you're doing. Have you seen that? Yeah. So it's a little more crumbly, it's a little more heavy, but it really does have a good flavor and it's easier for people to digest. As sourdough, that's another story. It works really good in sourdough. I'll tell you some stories on that in a minute. Khorasan is easier to work with. We grow the Khorasan. It's this big long grain. A lot of people ask me if it's rice, but it's not. It actually has gluten in it. And then we have it milled professionally into a white all-purpose Khorasan flour so that it's way easier to use in pie crusts and pastries and pasta, and it works fantastic in that. So I use this all the time. The Khorasan tends to be a little more buttery, lighter, chewier texture, and just all around easier to work with. I'm going to tell you now so I don't forget later. If you ever use Khorasan, use 25% less than what your recipe calls for. You can use it in anything, but use 25% less because it's just a thirsty flour and it tends to just soak up the water. So, little trick for you. Back in the spring, I had taken a sourdough class, and I made a loaf of sourdough, and it was beautiful, and it rose, and it was gorgeous. And I'm like, yeah, I can teach sourdough. And then the class said, or the ladies asked me if I could do ancient grain sourdough. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. We got this. Well, I started making ancient grain sourdough, and I decided I didn't like it. So I had to find a way to like it. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I made. And this is I'm doing pretty good with this, you guys. I have made sourdough bread all summer long just so I could tell you all about it. So this sourdough bread right here that I made do I need to show in the middle? This one is made with spelt and Khorasan, 100%. So I wrote it down. I have this little notebook. I've been writing down everything my ratios, everything in here. But this is just like half and half sourdough, or half and half spelt and half Khorasan. And I used a little bit whole grain Khorasan and a little bit of the white all-purpose Khorasan flour. Okay, do you see how it doesn't have a great rise? I don't care what I do with it. I personally cannot get a good rise with Khorasan. I don't know what I'm doing. Some people on the internet show that it works better, but then there's a lot of people that say that it just doesn't rise very well. It's not heavy. It still has good chewy texture. It still is light. You guys can taste it at the end, but it just is more flat. So there's that one. This one I've decided is my most favorite loaf of sourdough. This has spelt and Khorasan and partial bread flour, just a white bread flour. So I found the ratios that I like. It has about, I'll tell you in a minute because that's the recipe that's written down on your thing. So I made a sourdough bread loaf, which you just put into a bread pan. And then I made your traditional sourdough round loaf that you put in a Dutch oven. And look at the rise on that. It's like way better than this guy, right? But I like that I've done it with just Khorasan and bread flour. I like the spelt. I like the additional flavor profile that it has when I add the spelt. It's just a little bit nuttier, a little bit just richer flavor. So good. Okay, so we can try that one in a little bit. And then this one I just made with just bread flour. So the bread flour, if you're worried about gluten and digestibility, the fermentation of the grains and the flour in the sourdough process will still help you be able to digest it. So you can use whatever works for you, whatever flavor you like, but I brought all three so that you could taste different flavors and see which one you might actually like and want to pursue. So this is just the white bread flour, and look at the rise for that one. It was so pretty, you guys. I'm always so happy when it comes out of the oven, and it's just beautiful. Okay, are you ready to learn more about sourdough? Okay, let's dive in. I'm really happy my start didn't fall all the way here because I came from Sugar City. That was another little tip that I was going to tell. I'm all the way from Sugar City. I used to not use, I rebelled. I didn't use a scale for a long time in the beginning, but then I converted and I caved and I bought an actual scale, and it works a little bit better. I don't use as many dishes when I use a scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our bowl on here, and I'm going to talk through the recipe that's under number 2. So my favorite loaf, since I have to take this home and eat it, I'm going to make what I like. Okay. My favorite loaf, I'm going to make sure I have all my right. We are going to start with room temperature water. That's not my water. This is my water. I brought water from home because I didn't know what Blackfoot water was going to do. I don't know if you have anything in your water. I'm used to my water, so I brought my own water. So we're going to tear this bowl. So I'm at 0, and we're going to add 350 grams to the water. Is that what that paper says? The only reason I ask is because on the Khorasan one, there's less water. And I'm going to look at my other recipe. Yeah, we're sticking with, okay. My other recipe with the Khorasan has 325 grams. So I'm trying not to confuse myself. Who has a question here? Hi.
How do you convert grams to pounds?
It's just use the gram scale. It's so much easier. I don't know. I mean, there's 2.2 pounds to a gram, or kilograms. Look it up. Get a conversion calculator online. It's so much easier that way. But it's easier to just do the grams on the scale because that's what sourdough people do. You guys, I'm so not scientific and I don't know all the answers, but I will do my best to answer all your questions. Okay?
So the water is just room temperature?
It's just room temperature. Okay, I make like yeast bread. I've made that for lots of years. I used to think all of my water had to be like bath water temperature, really nice and toasty warm, right? And then I was killing my starter. So just room temperature is best. It'll actually, if it's a little cold, the starter doesn't care. It's weird. I don't get it, but it's happier that way. Okay, so I'm at 346. I'm going to get to 350. We are right at 350 grams. Room temperature water. And then we are going to take our starter Okay, just so you know, last night it started here when I mixed it all up. It's beautiful, it grew, and it didn't even fall too much during the drive, and I'm so excited. So we're gonna tare that. After everything, I hope I remember to tare it back to 0 so that I can add at least 125-ish grams of starter. We'll talk more about starter in a minute after I mix this. My starter is just, I use a white bread flour because it rises better. I've used Khorasan flour in the past and it rises okay. I just like the better rise with the bread flour. Okay, we're gonna just dump it in. Sometimes I don't have enough and usually that's okay. And if you look online, everybody says if it floats, it's so happy. And mine's floating, so we're gonna be happy with that. We have, oops, too much. Okay, I got carried away, but it's gonna be okay. I'm at 164 grams. Just means it'll rise a little bit better. And don't worry too much on the starter. It'll be okay. It's happy. Okay, you good? Now we're gonna just mix it up in here. You guys, there's so much I could tell you, but since we're limited on time, we're just kind of running through this. Just mix it up a little bit. And I tend to like my little spatulas because they're way easier to clean. I have a dough hook. Have you seen the fancy dough hooks that they're lovely, but then you have to clean them with all the little circly, you know what I mean? All the nooks and crannies. I don't like to clean them. So I use basic, easy to clean things. Okay, we're gonna re-tare. And we are gonna add some flour. Are you ready? I don't know where to put things. We're gonna start with the spelt flour, and I have some whole spelt flour that I milled last night, so it's pretty fresh. And we're gonna do 100 grams of whole spelt flour. Can you see that okay? It's about 3/4 of a cup. There's 101. Close enough. Oh, it's 100. Back to 100. Must be close because it keeps bouncing. Okay, and then we are going to use some of our, I like the white Khorasan flour. Yes?
I was going to tell you, I didn't want to use a scale either, but I got on Amazon and it really is fairly cheap.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier. Because I was guessing a little here and a little there, and I still guess a little here and a little there, but this is so much better. Okay, so we're going to use some of Khorasan flour, and this is just a more dense flour, so it's not quite 3/4 of a cup. And since I'm going to use 100 grams, I know 100 plus 100 is 200, right? I'm not going to re-tare everything.
When you do your without bread flour, do you just do even spelt and even Khorasan?
Yes.
When you don't do bread
Yes, when I don't do bread flour, I use even spelt and even Khorasan.
how many grams in each one?
There's 500 grams total.
500 grams.
So I usually do about 200 spelt and 300 white Khorasan, or you can go either way. Okay, I'm at 200 grams. And now I'm gonna pull out the white bread flour.
Do you have some bread flour?
You don't have to. I like it. It's what I had in my bucket. You can use whatever flour you want, but I like the bread flour because it has good protein. Okay, and now we're just gonna get to 500. So right now we're at 200 and we're just gonna dump until we get to 500 grams. We're at 460, 70, 75, 80. We're getting close. Okay, and up in Sugar City, I don't know if it's our elevation. You guys are kind of the same elevation as us, right? No? What are we here? Really? Oh, all right. We lose about 1,000 feet. That's good. Anyway, what I know is I don't like sticky dough. And it doesn't work out if I have sticky dough. So I usually end up, that's why the last one for bread flour says somewhere between 300 and 330 grams of flour. I usually end up adding an extra 30 grams of flour because, I don't know, my dough does not work out if I don't add those extra 30 grams. It's like wet And they say wet dough is a good thing, and I cannot make it work. It just like flattens and it leaves as a shape. It won't hold a ball. Anyway, that's what I know is it works better if I add extra. So can you guys, that's terrible. You can't even see that, can you? I need a red bowl so you can see what's going on inside of it. So I'm just gonna stir this. We have starter, we have flour, we have water, and that's it. Do you love that there's just such simple ingredients?
There's no salt?
Not yet. Okay, so what we're gonna do is kind of wait for 30 minutes. Somebody is gonna have to set a timer for me. So okay, one thing at a time. We are gonna mix this up. Can you see what's going on at all? We have kind of a shaggy dough here, but it's still too sticky for me. Like, I don't wanna touch that. I don't like to touch sticky dough. You guys are gonna know me really good by this. So, we're mixing it up just a little bit here. They say a shaggy dough is good, so if you want sticky dough and you wanna play with it, it's okay. It will soak up, it will turn into a better loaf, like you might just have to wait and see. Okay, I'm still doing my extra 30 grams, you guys. So we're at 15, 515. There's 25.
Can you use a stainless steel bowl, or does it need to be?
I think glass is better, or pottery type, or ceramic. You can use, I've used plastic before and it was fine. I don't know about stainless steel. Like, I don't know. Okay, this is more my style dough because I can almost touch it. And then, oh, the other really important thing that you need to know is don't put sourdough anything down the drain. Okay, it causes drain problems and plumbing problems. You don't want that. So, I am just gonna wipe all this off here and dive in. And you're not supposed to knead it, not really, but I like to make sure I get all the flour off the bottom. Okay, so that's what I'm doing, is I'm gonna just, sourdough you don't have to knead, but I like to just for a minute to make sure I get it all. So I just knead it and clean off the bowl a little bit. Doesn't need a lot. See what you good? At least it's cohesive. And then there's this problem. So I'm still sticky. But it's gonna be okay because it's not ultra sticky. Okay? But I don't want to put this down the drain. So that's why I got this cute little bucket of water so I can wash. And then I go through it on my grass outside. Okay, you know what? While I'm still here, I wasn't quite at 30. I thought maybe I'd try 20. I still play with it, you guys, every single time. It's an adventure. It depends on the weather. It depends on, like, it's so finicky. Okay, I'm happier with that. That's my dough. That's what it looks like. Kind of just blob. But I can handle it, and it makes me happier to handle it that way. Okay, you're gonna have to give me a minute while I clean off my hands. That's what this is for. Okay, yeah, oh. Good, 30 minutes. Okay, so that's in 30 minutes, if we're still talking, I will add the salt. And I'm trying not to make a huge mess. I think it doesn't matter, does it?
What about adding, like cinnamon?
What?
Like cinnamon?
Cinnamon? To wash? What do you...
What's cinnamon do if you add that? What's that?
Oh, in the dough? Add it really towards the end. When you're... okay, let me just talk you through the process of this dough and how it's going to be and when we could add cinnamon. So, with this dough, we're going to do stretch and folds. And in 30 minutes, I can show you a stretch and fold, okay? And what that even means. Basically, that's how you're gonna knead it, but it doesn't need a lot of kneading. So, okay, I feel better about that. And I feel better about not putting sourdough down their drain. Okay, We're gonna do some stretch and folds, and we're gonna add the salt in 30 minutes. And then after that, for 3 or 4 more times, we are gonna do 3 or 4 more stretch and folds. You're gonna let it sit for 5 to 8 hours, and it's gonna ferment, and it's gonna do its rise a little bit in here, and it's gonna do its thing. I'm so scientific, I know, right? But with that, after 5 to 8 hours, and in the summer it goes faster, it might be up to 4 hours, might be less than that if it's a really hot day. Then we're gonna take that and we're gonna flatten it to get the air bubbles out and fold it to make a ball, and that's the point where you would add stuff. So when we're flattening, it's called laminate. When you're gonna laminate that into a flat, kind of like you're gonna roll cinnamon rolls, right? Then you can add your stuff into there, whether it's blueberries, whether it's cinnamon, whether sugar tends to make it really sticky and kind of burns. So we like the cinnamon chips, you know, like Great Harvest does. Put cinnamon chips in their bread and roll it up that way so that it doesn't just melt and create sugary, syrupy goodness burned onto the bottom of your Dutch oven. So that's what we found that we like. You can add bacon and cheddar and jalapeno. I've seen tons of people do that. I don't like jalapeno, so I haven't done it. But my favorite one is just this, and then I add sandwich stuff on top of it. Okay, since I forgot my saran wrap, we're just gonna cover it like this for a little bit and set it aside, and we're gonna talk about start. So start is basically just flour and water and wild yeast, and you just keep feeding it. When it gets tired, it rises and then it falls. And once it falls, it's called discard. That's what everybody on the internet calls it. I know some people who don't like that word, but that's what everybody calls it. So if you ever need to Google recipes, you're gonna call it discard. But don't throw it away. Do you know that? There's so many things you can do with discard. And it's easy to use. In fact, the first little while I was doing sourdough starts, I just did sourdough discard recipes. It's so easy. And I didn't want to take the time to do 5 to 8 hours plus stretch and folds plus all the extra stuff. But there is a fantastic, what do I love to make? On my website, I have this cinnamon knot recipe that uses discard, and it is the easiest thing, and my kids prefer me to use that instead of making actual bread because it's so sweet and yummy. It's like a cinnamon roll, and then you cut it down the middle and you braid it up and put frosting all over it, and it's just soft and like, I thought about making you some and it didn't happen, I'm sorry, but it's so good. Just take my word for it. And then the crackers, they taste like Cheez-Its because Cheez-Its have a little bit of that bite, right? The crackers, I mean, you can flavor them anyway, but the crackers that I've made taste like Cheez-Its. They're really yummy and good. And then the other thing we like to do is to make waffles. Super easy. And I just made a pie crust that really was flaky and you couldn't even tell it was sourdough. Also, amazing.
To make waffles, you use the discard and then add stuff?
So what you do with the waffles, yes, thank you. Waffles, the night before is we take the discard and we feed it. And so it's all bubbly by morning, and you put together some things in the pan. There's a recipe I can share with you later. Then you feed it and you let it sit, and in the morning you just add some eggs and milk and make waffles. So just kind of a little prep in the night so it grows and it's all bubbly and happy and so good. The other thing is, everybody has like a microbacterial culture in their home. You all have smell, right? Some are stronger than others. So it depends on, I know, is that nice to say? But some people have stronger sourdough because of their home. So if you have strong smells, it'll even pick up onion smells, okay? It'll pick up whatever's going on in your home. So if you have more mild culture in your home, then you have more mild sourdough flavors. If you have a stronger smell in your home, then it might pick up some of those stronger flavors. Did you have something to?
Yeah. What about soda?
What about soda?
When I make waffles, I use soda to make
This recipe actually calls for some soda. I do believe. I don't have it memorized, but in my head, I remember using some soda. Let's talk. Okay, there's so many things to talk about. I tell you, this could be 3 days worth of stuff. Let's talk really quick about that first bubble on your handout. It's called the rhythm of sourdough. And you have to find a rhythm. And sometimes I get kicked out of my rhythm and I just have to call my sister and say, how do I do this again? I forgot. So rhythm, here's what I've done lately. I don't remember. Should I read my thing? I usually feed it at night. So I'll take whatever we're going to do right now, I'll show you. And I usually feed it at night, let it rise all night long, and in the morning, I mix it up and do my stretch and folds, and then by noon, 1 o'clock, if it's warm outside, then I have fresh bread. Sometimes, you guys, sourdough is really forgiving. Sometimes I can just let it sit and it'll be dinner time when I am making and baking my bread and we can eat it for dinner if we want to. So there's one rhythm. Oh, in the morning when you start making from your sourdough, you can use the whole thing or you reserve just a little bit to feed it to keep it going. Does that make sense? And then you can either put that in the fridge because you don't want to make sourdough again by nighttime, or you can just leave it in the fridge and ignore it for like 2 weeks if you need a break and you need it to just also take a break. It's very forgiving. Okay, so there's one rhythm. The other one is to, you guys, there's lots of ways to do this. So these are two that work for me. Feed it in the morning, and then by about noon, is that what I said on there? I can't even remember what I said. What's my rhythm? Somebody tell me my rhythm.
You start the starter in the morning and end up mixing the bread and starting stretching and holds about 4 to 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes. I haven't done this. I've done the nighttime for so long that I'm like, I know I've done the other one, but I can't remember. Okay, so you feed it in the morning, and then by like 4 or 5 o'clock, you're doing stretch and folds, and then you can bake it right before you go to bed, kind of thing. So there's lots of ways to do this. You just have to find what rhythm works for you. Anytime you're tired of it, and there is an option to put it in the fridge. If you're like, I'm too tired, I just made it into this lovely ball. Once you laminate it, you form it into a ball. And then you don't want to bake it right there, you can put it in the fridge for another 5 to 8 hours. And then you can pull it out, score it, and bake it. Does that make sense? So far, so good? Okay. So let's talk about a starter and how to feed a starter. I have this nice, I like this jar because it has a nice wide opening so that I can get in there and stir. I don't always love this because it's kind of hard and deep to get into, but it's what I had that was bigger that I could bring stuff for today. So you do about a teaspoon. You don't need a lot. And just for a normal feed, I do, I don't know, is that more of a tablespoon? It's a lot of guesswork. You can measure it. I should have my thing on, but I don't. You can measure it if you want to, but it's also okay just to do it. I do about a 1/4 cup of bread flour and about a 1/4 cup of room temperature-ish water. And I usually pull it right out of the tap. And then we stir. And this is how you feed a starter. Can you even see that?
So the rest that you haven't used for the bread, that's called discard.
The rest that we haven't used for bread is called discard. So all of this can either go in the fridge and sit until I'm ready to use it for any of my discard recipes. And sometimes I get like a gallon of discard, and then I have to get really creative and focus on using the discard. Use a lot of crackers or make a lot of waffles, or it's not too hard. Or you can add it to any recipe. You can add just a little bit. There's actually a formula online that tells you how to take away a little bit of flour and a little bit of water and add discard. Look it up. We don't have time for that today. So that is a thing though. Okay, this is too runny. Can you see that? I'll show you again. That's supposedly too runny for your start. You want it to be more like a Dairy Queen Blizzard, where you can almost turn it upside down and it's thick. So I'm gonna add some more flour since I got my thing wet. We're gonna use this. And I just dump a little bit in and keep stirring. And it starts to develop the gluten. You can kind of see it. Hold on, I'll show you. You kind of, not to be weird or rude, but it kind of looks like boogers, okay? You're going to remember that. So when it kind of looks boogerish, it's about there. Okay? Okay, we're going to do a little bit more. I know, my mother's appalled. Okay, there. Do you see how that feels a little more gluten-y and a little more like it should be bread stuff? That's what we want it to look like. And then I clean off the sides because it's going to be messy, and if you let it sit, it turns hard as a rock. So I try to get all the stuff in one place. Okay, good. Then we're going to use a paper towel or something, but since I'm here, we're using paper towels, and clean it off because we don't want that in the drain. And I have a code with my kids that whatever is by the sink and looks like it's soaking, don't dump it down the sink. So they usually know to just let it sit and we'll take care of it later. We'll dump it on the grass later. Okay, so this is my start. This is what I do at like 10 o'clock at night. I feed it really quick, set it on the countertop or whatever. By morning, it's at least doubled and happy and bubbly, and then I can make it into wherever this went, the bread dough. Okay, yes?
So, do you have to do that every new recipe you want, or can you just use that, the discard?
It depends what recipe you're using. If you want to, no, you don't, okay. Let me see if I'm following where you're going with that. So, if I put the discard in the fridge, and I say I'm tired of it for a while, I need a break, and then I want to make sourdough again, then I can take this and feed it. Sometimes it'll get a little gray, hoochy, they call it hooch, gray, slimy, alcohol-y stuff on it. Just stir that in. Close your eyes and stir it. It'll be okay. Plug your nose if you need to. It's going to be okay. And then you can take this and feed it here, and it'll just come back and do its thing. Yeah.
Do you cover that at night then?
This, you cover it with just something light so that it can still breathe. So I've put paper towels over top of it. I've put whatever, just don't screw a lid down tight on it because it needs to still breathe. So pretend it's alive, because it really is. And it needs air holes kind of. But this is easy. This is good enough. Okay, did that answer your question? Okay, excellent. What else can I?
How do you start a starter?
Okay.
You don't have someone to give it to.
If you don't have some, I don't know. You watch a YouTube video and take a whole entire week or 10 days and you feed it and you let it sit and you feed it and you let it sit and you keep doing that. But guess what, you guys, today? For some lucky people, I have a start if you want. And I brought little cups that you can carry it around the fair. So you can have a start. That's why I have extra today. And I left plenty at home for me to use later. It'll be okay. Plus I have this guy, right? Okay, what else? What other questions? How are we doing so far on, do you feel like you've had a fire hose right now, or is this okay? This is manageable?
Do you want to cover the discard in the refrigerator?
Yes. Yes. Otherwise it soaks up all kinds of weird smells and, yeah.
You want to seal it when you put it in the
I put an actual twist on lid in the fridge with this.
How old is your star? Does age make a difference?
Not necessarily. I've killed a couple of them, so I have a friend down the road who's rescued me a couple times. And I hear that one is the granddaughter of another one from another friend, so I don't actually know. So I just keep a good friend with the sourdough start, and then if you screw it up good, you can always get another one. It happens. And if you screw it up, you're with the best of people. So Okay, what other questions do you have now that we're, yes?
Have you ever tried just any type of gluten-free flour, anything fully gluten-free?
I have tried gluten-free flour, yes, but not with sourdough. So I don't know that it would do much. It would just kind of be a blob. Yeah, I don't know if it's even worth trying, I'll be honest, because it's so starchy. You don't have any gluten development. You would have to use xanthan gum, and I don't even know what that would do. So sorry, but I do cook gluten-free for my sister-in-law, and it's not that much fun.
It's not fun to eat that.
It's not, but it depends on, okay, did I talk enough about what this does? Like, it's so much more digestible. The Khorasan and the spelt have such a simpler chromosome structure that it breaks down so much easier in your body that your body doesn't have any side effects like it normally does. So depending on the severity of what you have or what you're dealing with, I have people who have instant headaches the moment they have gluten. I have people who just have really gassy and bloating, or they have rashes or whatever. They come back and they're like, that worked. I love to hear that it worked. And one lady last night, in fact, she's like, my daughter-in-law has never had real gluten. She just always has this gluten-free stuff. And I made her a chocolate cake with it, and it was like grainy and gross. And do you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's grainy and gross. And she came and bought the Khorasan flour and made a chocolate cake for her birthday, and just to see if it would work. And they're like, that was the best chocolate cake ever, and it worked.
It's such a treat.
It's so amazing. She was so happy. So yeah, it does amazing things for a lot of people.
I was talking to a friend who makes commercial sourdough bread. He uses a powdered starter.
Okay, I've seen that. I have one in my kitchen somewhere. You can buy dehydrated starts. I have a friend that will, like, when she has too much discard, lay it out and dehydrate it and save it for later for when she needs it. I haven't done that yet. I just know it's a thing. Yes.
Where can we get this flour?
Which flour?
Both the Canadian and spelt.
What a great question. Thank you. So, not to sound like an advertisement, no. So we grow it. We have it available up at my fruit stand. If you ever need it during the year, I'm available. I have business cards up here where you can contact me. It has my website.
So, this is just, I could use it in my regular bread, my wheat bread or whatever, just for different.
Yes. Oh, one of the other things,
So
yes.
you can use it for everything.
You can use Khorasan for everything. Just like I said, that 25% less, that's the trick. But it's beautiful in like breads and pies and cakes and cookies and you name it. I ship it all over the country and they use it for everything.
And how does it come?
I have it in 5-pound and 25-pound bags for all of these, the grains and the flour. Yes, sir.
Do you make it a little different for like a pizza or a donut?
Well, I have recipes on my website. Does that help? And I tell you the ratios that I use on there. So my pizza crust recipe, I still need to post some more recipes because I've been playing with it a lot this summer and I haven't been posting everything. But my pizza crust recipe's on there. That cinnamon knot recipe's on there. See, she's found it. And what else is on there?
Pancakes.
Pancakes, blender pancakes, cinnamon knot. She's looking at my website. She's great. Yes,
Can you use that 100% for like just a loaf of bread and stuff?
you can.
Or do you need to add some regular?
You don't have to. You can use the Khorasan 100% for whatever you make. Just back off on that 25% and then realize that Khorasan is a little bit naturally sweet and it has a little bit of a buttery flavor. So if you're making like a honey wheat bread and you're using that, you might back off a little bit on the honey because it is just a little bit naturally sweet. So it'll rise. It's beautiful. Yes. Yes. Have you learned good things today so far? Yes.
You do you said that the Khorasan was kind of sweet and buttery,
Yes.
but on here it says Khorasan is typically more sour by itself.
Okay, let's clarify that. Typically, in normal recipes without sourdough recipes, it is a little bit sweet and buttery. However, in my sourdough, when I use 100% Khorasan in my sourdough, this is what I found out as I was making all these sourdough loaves for you guys. I don't like it. It's like so sour. If you like sour sourdough, Khorasan is your thing. For some reason, I don't know why, but it tends to be more sour when it's just by itself as sourdough. So thank you, because that is an important thing. Yes.
I bought some sourdough bread at the grocery store, and one of the ingredients was vinegar.
Oh.
And it was like a cheater. It was not real sourdough.
So yeah.
So I was really disappointed.
There's a lot of that out there. I've heard that several times, that sourdough bread, when you buy it at the grocery store or whatever, they cheat. So make sure, make your own. It'll be good. You can do this.
I could do this.
You got this. Okay, what else? What else do you need to clarify? And hopefully you've learned lots. How are we doing?
One more question.
Yes.
You said earlier that the Khorasan doesn't rise as well. It's light, but it doesn't rise as well. Is that just
Sourdough.
That's
Yes.
just sourdough.
Yes. Just as sourdough, Khorasan doesn't rise as much. It looks lovely when I'm doing this. Like, it looks like it should be a beautiful loaf. When I put the white bread flour in my Dutch oven, I have this gorgeous Dutch oven. It's really pretty blue. Oh, we got to talk about the cold bake. Remind me to talk about the cold bake. I put it in there, and it looks like it's going to it blows up a little bit in the oven. The Khorasan doesn't. It just, sits there. It's just, ugh. Anyway, it's not my favorite. I like it to grow and be beautiful and big and pretty and, yeah. Okay.
So you use the Khorasan not with the sourdough mix, and it does rise nice?
Oh, it's beautiful rice. Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
Khorasan rises
sourdough,
beautifully
so
normally.
bake it in the-
Yes. Okay, cold bake. There is a lot of discussion out there about stick your Dutch oven, when it's time to bake it, stick your Dutch oven and heat it for 30 minutes in a 500-degree temperature oven. And then don't burn yourself as you carefully plop your loaf in there. And don't drop it too hard, because then it might go flat. And then, you guys, it's too much for me, okay? So I've also found this recipe out there, and I've tested it side by side. I've done the hot stuff, I've done the cold stuff. You can't tell a difference. So here's what you do for a cold bake. Whoops, let's continue with the cold bake. So a cold bake means you take your Dutch oven, cold Dutch oven, and you put your bread dough into the Dutch oven. Everything's cold, the oven is cold, everything. And you score the bread, you do whatever you do, put it into the Dutch oven, and then the Dutch oven, you're going to take that and put it into your cold oven. After it's in the oven with the lid on, you will take the temperature and set it. I usually set mine to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and I cook it for typically 30 minutes when it's hot, plus a preheat time. Mine takes about maybe 10 minutes to preheat, so I cook it for 40 minutes so that it has that 10 minutes to warm up, and then I'm doing the bake time. And when I do that, I have not noticed any difference between putting my dough into a hot Dutch oven versus putting it in and doing a cold bake. So I just did a cold bake, and this is the bread that I just made. It came out beautifully. I'm so excited to eat it. And because I'm continuing this at my home, you get to see that I just made some sourdough. And that's what one of them turned out like this time. So thanks for paying attention and watching this. I hope you made it all the way to the end. If you want to learn more tips about sourdough or ancient grains, or just ask questions, I'd love for you to join my email list, like and subscribe, and you can follow us for more videos later.